Obama. So let's make this a 15-minuter and be done with it. 44th President of the United States and very first African-American president, absolutely, positively one of the most significant elections in American history because we have come full circle. We have come from in 1787 when the Constitution was being ratified and in 1800 when they were building the White House and the Capitol with slave labor. We now have in the very same area, only 150 feet away from the area where they had kept slaves in cages to build the Capitol, we have an African American raising his right hand and taking the oath of office. And I don't care what you think about personally about President Obama. No, a lot of people are right, a lot of people are left, a lot of people like him, a lot of people don't. The fact that he is the very first African American president is possibly the most important aspect about him. The next thing that we need to take a look at is I even have some Time magazine pictures from the 2008 election, all that kind of fun stuff like that. One thing that I really do before we kind of get too involved in it is I also want to make a pretty big deal out of the fact that while he is the first African American to be elected president, he also contended against the very first woman who actually potentially could have become president, and that's Hillary Clinton. Democratic primary 2008 was absolutely crazy, and we'll get to it in just a second, but some of these, Super Tuesday Special, the struggle for the soul of the Democrats, you see this one over in the right-hand corner. Then there's this one, and it's kind of hard to see. I kind of wish it was a little easier to see. It says there can only be one. Half of the face is President Obama, half of the face is Hillary Clinton. Kind of reminds you of that Al Gore and Baby Bush one, you know, who is the winner. Kind of an interesting aspect to that. 2008 Democratic primary. Let's go ahead and pause this and get it down for me real quick. Get all the details down, and then I'm going to talk about it. Okay, so a lot of y'all haven't taken government yet, so you don't quite understand this, but to have a general election where it is a Democrat versus a Republican, you have to actually first have what we call primaries, where it's every single Democrat runs against another Democrat or the group of Democrats to be the one Democratic nominee for President of the United States. These are called primaries. In 2008, the big contenders in the 2008 Democratic primary to be the Democratic nominee for president in the general election was Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Now, with that, this is absolutely groundbreaking because you have the first woman and you have the very first African American. This is massive. Obama ended up winning it, but I will tell you that Hillary is the first legitimate female candidacy for president. And I will be honest with you, I was very much paying attention to this in 2008, and there was one speech in particular, and it was Hillary's concession speech. And in class, we're going to watch a YouTube clip of it. That is right there. But it's a very simple statement by Hillary. She said, although we weren't able to shatter that highest, hardest glass ceiling this time, thanks to you, it's got 18 million cracks in it. Which means that 18 million people voted for her, which is the cracks in the sexism ceiling of a woman can't be president. And she is there to prove that she can be president. And while I am recording this, she has just announced her candidacy for 2016. Because of this Democratic primary, you're going to see a lot of animosity between these two. However, when Obama wins it, he does step back and really looks at the fact that Hillary Clinton is possibly one of the best political minds in the Democratic Party, and he makes her his Secretary of State. First FLOTUS, First Lady of the United States, to ever become a massively important part of a administration after her husband's, and she becomes Secretary of State. So it's kind of important to know about that. Now, you do need to know those were the primaries. Let's talk a little bit about the general election 2008. Go ahead and make sure you pause this, get it down. Barack Obama defeated Senator John McCain in 2008 to become the first African American president. John McCain had actually been, and this might be a good quiz question, I know we've talked about him before, I hope you were listening. He was actually a Vietnam veteran who was in a POW camp for multiple years during Vietnam, and he will run in 2008 against Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Now, the other interesting thing, you might want to star this as well, I don't have it on the slide, but it'd be a good quiz question, and it's totally applicable. Sorry, I can't get that out. Applicable. I can't do it again. If the EOC asked you, John McCain also had a female vice presidential candidate. Anybody know who it was? Anybody know? We had Geraldine Ferraro in the 1980s. Now we have Sarah Palin in 2008. So, and she becomes a pretty big part of the Republican Party after John McCain picks her. So you need to know that. Although I will tell you, look at this presidential electoral map. Barack Obama got 365 electoral votes. McCain got 173. Barack Obama solidly won this election. Now, let's keep going with domestic policy. Domestic policy right here. Now, what I want you to do is pause this. This is the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. Get down the details and then listen to me. Okay, so let's talk about this. In 2008, the very last thing I talked about with Baby Bush is he basically left office in midst of a massive economic crash of 2008 because the banks were giving risky loans, but we've heard this before, because people were getting those loans when they really couldn't afford them, because there was no regulations, all this kind of stuff blew up in 2008, including the housing bubble. And when Barack Obama becomes president, he is faced right off the bat with a horrible economy and rising unemployment to the tune of almost 10%. Now, the way he responds, and before I even really talk about this, look at this Time magazine cover. The New Deal. Who is Barack Obama supposed to be in this picture? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Barack Obama, literally it says, what Barack Obama can learn from FDR and what Democrats need to do. He takes office and he passes this American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. I need to make sure you wrote down it is a stimulus program that had an original estimated cost of $787 billion, which was revised to more $831 billion spent between 2009 and 2019. So it's actually not even over yet. This bill is going to invest in, and you need to get this down too, education, infrastructure, highways, that kind of stuff like that, buildings, welfare programs, and unemployment support. Oh my gosh, that sounds exactly like the New Deal. Education, infrastructure, welfare programs, unemployment. FERA, WPA, CWA. This is exactly like the New Deal. It's just there's no reforming to it as much as it is just putting money into the economy. It's that Keynesian economic theory. You need to make sure you understand this. Keynesian economic theory. That for the economy to get better, the government has to spend money. The problem being with that is that the government spends the money when they don't have the money. They go into debt, which can be a problem if the economy does not recover because of the stimulus package. That is why right now, as I am talking, the debt has topped $18 trillion. Now, the other thing I have right here, and I don't even know if I have this in your notes. No, don't have this in your notes, but I want to show you. Another thing I want to kind of keep building upon in these last decade or two that we've been learning about. The 1990s, the impact of technology, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. I want you to also take a look at something that's going to be changing. The impact of technology is a massive topic in this unit as well. This was actually the new Pope announcement in 2005 when Pope Benedict was taken and announced. You notice that there's like one flip phone right there. Yeah? Oh, maybe a phone right there. This is the announcement of our brand new Pope, Pope Francis. Look at all those phones. So that's kind of something I want you to also start thinking about in this time period as well, as that technology. Now the next one. Oh yes. Last Supreme Court Justice we have to learn about, Sonia Sotomayor. So pause this and get it down. Okay. Sonia Sotomayor replaces Sandra Day O'Connor on the Supreme Court of the United States. The very first woman ever to be on the court, appointed by Reagan, okay, retires after a lifetime of serving the court. Remember, she's appointed in the 1980s. She retires, okay, and literally in about 2008, 2009, Barack Obama then takes, and to fill Sandra Day O'Connor's seat, he takes and appoints, or I should say nominates, because the Senate has to approve, checks and balances, the very first Hispanic American woman on the court, Sonia Sotomayor. And so with this, she is a very, very integral part of the court, and now we do have a Hispanic on the Supreme Court of the United States. Definitely a very big civil rights victory, and I love this picture right here I didn't teach these two ladies right here. I should have, but I didn't. Ruth Ellen Ginsburg, she's amazing. Elena Kagan, she's pretty good herself. But here is Sonia Sotomayor, and right here is Sandra Day O'Connor. The first woman on the court, second, third, fourth women on the court. And of course, it's important to note that Sonia, of course, Sotomayor, Hispanic. Now, next up, let's talk a little bit about domestic policy, environmental. So pause this, get it down. Okay, next thing we got to do, talk about environmental limits deep offshore drilling in response to the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, and also President Obama will fight that Canadian pipeline. I'm pretty sure you guys know about the BP oil spill. Happened very recently, about 2009-ish, okay? And with that, you are going to have oil being pumped into the Gulf of Mexico to the tune of, look at this picture right here. This is on one of those vacation cities. Can you go swimming in that? No. Look at how far this spill is going to. So there are going to be new environmental laws passed by President Obama you need to make sure about, and BP is going to be one of the central targets for this because of their oil spill that they had right off the Gulf Coast. Ooh, quiz yourself. Pause it. See if you can get it down. I might use this on my quiz on Monday. Yeah, I might do that. Okay. Last thing, gun control, domestic policy. Okay. Oh, not last thing. We still got Obamacare. Pause it, get it down. Since President Obama is a very, very, very much what we would call a liberal-leaning president, he's a Democrat, he does have one part of his domestic policy that is going to anger a lot of Republicans, especially Texans in particular. Totally aware I'm talking to Texans. But he is going to sign 23 executive orders addressing and limiting certain guns and ammunition sales and creating harsher penalties for gun trafficking. I will tell you, a lot of what his gun policy is aimed at is the fact that, well, let's be very honest, Sandy Hook. And if you don't know what Sandy Hook is, you need to look it up. It's the mass murder of those children up in the Northeast by that kid that went in with a massive AK-47. We've also had many like the Aurora Theater shooting. All kinds of stuff like that going on. President Obama has decided that he will take aim. He says, we've suffered too much pain and care too much about our children to allow this to continue. We're not going to wait for another Newtown or the next Aurora before we act. So he will go after guns. A lot of people don't like that, but he does it anyways. Second Amendment, the NRA is going to be kind of mad about that. Last thing we need to talk about as far as President Obama's domestic policy. The Patient and Protection and Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. Here it is. The most controversial thing that President Obama has done, universal health care. A lot of people say socialistic health care. And it is still not fully implemented at this time. We are at the point where we are signing up. People are now under Obamacare. The whole idea about Obamacare is that everyone should have protection. Everyone should have the ability to have health care. And if you can't afford your own private policy, then the government will give you one itself. And then what you will have is you will have government-funded health insurance, and it will be taxed for payment. So a lot of people have a problem that people are going to be taxed if they don't have their health coverage. But with that, a lot of people say, well, everybody needs health insurance to make sure that if you go to the emergency room and you don't have any money, then they don't bankrupt because you can't pay them, and then they raise my bill. Other people will say it's everybody's own right if they want health insurance or they don't want health insurance, and it's the government abusing power. Obamacare, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act is the technical term. I need you to know that. It's helped a lot of people. I will say that a lot of people say that it's raised health insurance rates, so I guess it's totally up to how you see it. You do need to know that this was actually passed, and it has not been overturned, even though the Republicans keep trying, and it is basically Obama's crowning glory of domestic policy because he ran on health insurance. He said, we need health insurance, and they elected him. You saw that Electoral College quite largely, and now a lot of people are upset about Obamacare. I don't know if it literally held up to what he was saying it was going to, but you need to know about it. Okay, and the next thing will be foreign policy. I'm going to have to do like a 3-minute on that one.